Hello, I'm Johnny Rowland. Welcome to our shooting program today. We're so glad to have you. We're going to take a visit to Jim Coleman's indoor shooting range in just a few minutes. But friends, let us remind you that the anti-gun types, and that's what makes places like this so important, the anti-gun types are working full speed, full time, all the time to try and take away our rights as individuals to own guns. We cannot forget that. So without further ado, as I like to say, have our target in place here. Let's open another shooting program. Well, friends, we're over here today with a very nice gentleman. In fact, you'll recognize Jim Coleman from being on the program. Well, I said very nice gentleman. And we're here at Jim's establishment in Bossier City, Louisiana. This is Shooters USA. Right. Now, Jim, tell me something. Whatever possessed you to open a shooting range, indoor shooting range?
Well, Johnny, I didn't open it. It was already here.
Well, the point is, yes, moving right along. What did you want to do with your new shooting range?
In the Shreveport-Bossier area, there's no indoor ranges other than this one. There's no public ranges other than this one and one that the state runs at Bodcow. So I thought it was pretty nice to have an indoor public range where anybody can come through the front door. They don't have to be a member. They can just come in and shoot. I can furnish everything from guns to ammunition, ear protection, eye protection, targets.
Well, you know, Jim, you made a good point. And a place to shoot is becoming a real problem in some areas.
Certainly is.
Well, as you've heard me say on the program before, friends, this is, you know, if we're going to have guns in our society, you got to go shoot them. I mean, you just can't leave them in a closet or in a drawer somewhere. We've got to have places to go shoot. And we're going to be looking through here in just a few minutes and see and of course, you're in a state of improvement and repair. You got this range has been here for several years, and you got it in fact, this year, didn't you?
That's correct. The range has been here since 1981. I purchased the range in July of this year.
So I noticed you're doing some painting and some other things.
Yes.
Now, inside the room here, I notice you have some tables and chairs, and this is for a discussion about if you have a group of security officers or a group of people that want to get some basics. That's what that is for, I suppose.
Absolutely. That's the classroom area. You notice that I've got a sign up here saying classroom, and that can house 25 people for training purposes, whether it be for security or personal defense or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's just look at a couple of things that a commercial professional shooting range should have, one of which is you've got to have, and I notice you have these on sale, to quote a great American, a good friend of ours, the Honorable Harold Terry,
yes.
whom you remember, I'm sure.
Certainly. Shall never forget.
We remember him very well. He's very close to us, even as we speak.
Yes.
And you always be polite to an armed man. That's right.
Absolutely.
Anyway, you have
especially if it's Harold Terry.
That's true, especially if it's Harold Terry. This is a very nice set of wraparound. It looks like Lexan glasses, and
yes.
This is so important, whether you're outside or indoors like this.
Right.
I notice you also have a good supply of hearing protectors, earmuffs, and this is from Silencio, which is a very nice. These have the Colt logo, and I hope that they're collecting more money from Colt than we ever have. Okay,
they are, I'm sure. Yes, but I do have Smith & Wesson and Ruger also.
Okay, you got them too. Well, I say I hope that somebody collected money from those people more than we ever got. Okay. Little plug there for the ad department. Okay. I notice you also have, this is a new Bianchi AccuMold holster.
Right.
This is really a nice looking holster. What kind of luck are you having with these?
Well, I have it for the revolver and for the pistol, and it's all that I do carry is AccuMold, and it's been very, very successful.
Well, what I'm seeing here is a shaped, and we may take a closer look at that in a moment, but a shaped holster. It looks like the soft variety that we're all used to, but in fact this is a molded inner liner,
yes,
I guess, huh?
Sure is.
Not a bad idea, is those of you. Well, go ahead,
with the thumb snap on it.
With the thumb snap.
Yes.
Well, those of you who are familiar with shooting also know just how important a good holster is. I mean,
no question.
A lot of people think they'll go down and spend all their money on a gun, and the ammunition in the holster will be, oh, well, I just get whatever. And
I used to think that until I met Harold Terry. Now I know better.
Well, it is so true. Now, also, I see that you offer some chemical agents.
Yes.
Yes, we're trying to be correct here in our terminology.
Certainly.
Essentially, this is pepper gas, but most likely and often referred to as chemical agent, because there are places that even with a concealed carry permit, that it is not feasible to carry a gun.
That's right.
So you offer this for sale. I'll tell you what, friends, this is a 10% oleocapsicum. I believe that's correct.
That's right. We'll see.
And this is bad stuff.
It certainly is. Comes in 15%. I also have, by the way.
Well, it's very, very powerful, and of course, this is an alternative when you cannot carry a firearm. This is not a bad alternative. Would be this chemical agent here.
That's exactly right. Yeah, Johnny, we've got 9 stalls here on the pistol range, and this is a 50-foot range. On the other side over here, we have a rifle range, what we call the rifle range, and it's 75 feet, and there's 3 stalls over there on the other side. Up here, Johnny, we have a automatic retriever for the target, so we don't have to continually go down range, stop the firing line, and have everybody go down, pick up their target, come back, and start shooting again. Works much like a garage door opener. It'll send the target down to 50 feet, or however far I wish to go. I don't necessarily have to go to 50 feet. We have different lightings and different distances. You'll notice that there's a red line on the floor and a yellow line on the floor to give us our distances. And then, of course, I can simply retrieve it to check my target anytime I'd like, whether it be after one shot or after a number of shots.
Now, friends, I tell you what, now, of course, Jim and I are both fairly economy-sized people, and one of these booths is a little crowded with both of us in it. But
yes, it is.
For some others, one, they have a rest here of some sort. You have several different accessories. You got a little tray here for the ammunition and empties, and we also have splash or barricade these shields to keep anybody else's powder or whatever else coming across and hitting you in the stall.
It can also be used for arrest.
Well, which is really a good idea. Now, you train some security officers, security classes.
Yes.
And as we had mentioned, you had a real expert help set this situation up here with you.
Absolutely. He didn't help set it up. He set it up.
He set it up. And, of course, we're talking about our good friend Harold Terry, who, in fact, is a real expert. Unlike some of those people who write for gun magazines. Now, some of them are, but trust me, some of them aren't.
I didn't say that.
So, well, I did. I know some. Some are real good and others, well, whatever. Jim, one thing that I do want to compliment you on is the layout. It is a very comfortable place. Now, you're very pleased to have ladies come here, aren't you?
Absolutely. And it's part of the reason for the layout. When I first bought this place, I felt like it was very intimidating, especially for younger people and ladies. So one of the things I've tried to achieve here is to make this a wholesome atmosphere, and I think I've done some of that.
You've touched on something that I think is absolutely crucial for the future of our sport and, for that matter, us having guns in this society. We have got to have places like this one where people will be comfortable. They're not afraid to bring their wife or their children, yes, where you know there's not going to be bad language or bad behavior. It's just not going to happen here.
Not going to happen.
And this is something we want to encourage. Jim, we'll give your phone number a little later, but if there's someone out there in our audience that has been contemplating opening their own indoor shooting range, well, they could give you a call and talk to you, couldn't they, Jim?
Sure they could. Yeah, you want to give my phone number now?
Go ahead. Well, go right ahead.
It's area code 318-747-5811. All it takes is a lot of willingness, and I understand that someone was going to duplicate a range like this over in Longview, and somewhere in the neighborhood of $1.3 million to do that. So there are a lot of considerations to make.
Well, does the NRA assist in setting up shooting ranges?
They certainly can, absolutely. They didn't this one.
But this is something that they do.
Yes, they have all kinds of programs, including insurance, symposiums, information from symposiums and such, that can help someone set up a range.
Well, let's go out on the range itself, and
sure,
let's see on how some of this works, because a lot of people don't really understand the mechanics of what happens to the bullet when you shoot one indoors.
One thing I might mention before we leave this particular spot, Johnny, is that because safety is so important, we have here a little sign that we put on each one of the stalls that reminds us of what we need to do. And I always put these and make note of them so people remember. Just a friendly reminder.
But you know, so many people now, we have new shooters, people that don't really know that much about firearms, and every place you can put a safety reminder, I think it's a good idea.
Sure.
What such as, here's what he has written here. This is important. Think safety first, of course. Always remember when on the firing line, keep your muzzle pointed downrange, and never put your finger on the trigger until the muzzle is pointed at your target. Major, major thought there. And always remember, when off the firing line, unload your guns. On a revolver, have the cylinder opener chambers empty, and a semi-automatic magazine removed, slide, locked, open, chamber empty. So an excellent reminder. And we can't, you know, if we had the entire program talking about safety, people would get tired and quit watching, but that wouldn't be too much, because firearm safety is something we can never put out of our minds.
If you are a boater or a birder, if you ever carry a camera, Bi-Tote is for you. It is the most comfortable binocular and camera carrier on the market today. And its all-elastic quick change feature makes it possible to switch from one piece of equipment to another without missing a beat. If you think that carrying binoculars or cameras is a pain in the neck, try Bi-Tote. For the first time, your equipment will feel almost weightless, and you'll be free of that annoying swinging and bouncing which is hard on your body as well as the equipment, especially when you're negotiating rough terrain or on a pitching boat. One hand for you, one hand for the boat, and Bi-Tote for your binoculars or camera. They'll be ready for you instantly, held firmly in position. They're always there, not buried in a locker or other out-of-the-way place. And the Bi-Tote is totally adjustable for a custom fit. All necessary adapters and complete instructions are included with your Bi-Tote. How did you ever get along without it?
Johnny, we have here the bullet trap at Shooters USA. This is the back of the range. What we have here is a material they call wear plate. Wear plate is what the bullet hits. When the bullet hits the wear plate, as you can see, the lighted area is where most of them hit, where we wished all of them hit, by the way. And the bullet travels up to a chamber. It spins around in this chamber, bullet trap if you will, until it loses its velocity. Then it falls back down on the wear plate, slides down into a little container down here, a hopper, where the lead is kept and stored until it's cleaned out. If you'll notice the sheen on it here, Johnny, that is a lightweight motor oil. In this particular instance, it's a 5W30. It's put on here very sparingly every month. Now, every week we check and make sure that this high traffic area, if you will, is taken care of with that same 5W30 oil. It's just an inexpensive motor oil is all it is. It'll give that bullet a little slide. It'll also keep the lead from collecting in the bullet trap itself or in the squirrel cage or the tumbler.
Stay tuned for more of the Shootin' Show after these important messages.
The Shootin' Show will be right back after this break for your local cable company or TV station. You know, friends, it's rare in any field of manufacture that one particular company has a clear-cut advantage over the others. Well, in this case, it's Corbin Ammunition, Corbin Bullet Company, because they make the best handgun, long gun, and even some specialty caliber ammunition that's been real hard to get in the past. If you really want your handgun or rifle to perform at their absolute best, you need to find some Corbin ammunition. For information on where you can get Corbin, information on their product line, call them. Corbin Bullet Company, 1-800-626-7266. Again, give them a call. It's a free call, 1-800-626-7266. Trust me on this one. Corbon is the best there is.
Well, Jim, I'm certainly impressed. One thing I do like, you have excellent lighting where you can see, and you can set up pretty much whatever lighting situation you want. But I notice you're carrying a gun yourself. What are you carrying?
Johnny, what I have here is a Model 64 Smith & Wesson revolver, 4-inch barrel, bull barrel. Notice the front sight's whited, and this is a 6-shot revolver.
Well, why are you carrying a revolver, Jim? You could carry anything you want.
That's true. This is the simplest and safest gun that I can carry, and simplicity sometimes can be super important if your revolver is needed.
You know, and this is something that we've talked about on the program, and we periodically do talk about. Simplicity in a crisis situation. Do you stress crisis management here?
Certainly. I think it's very important because you're dealing with firearms. The necessity of their use may be very sudden, and the situation can change very, very, very quickly.
Well, you recommend revolvers to your new shooters, is that right?
As a basic gun to use in training, yes, indeed, because of its simplicity.
Well, friends, and this can't be overemphasized. If you have a handgun and you need a handgun, you typically need it real bad, real fast.
That's correct.
The average person, even some professionals, do not need to wonder if that safety is on or off. Is the chamber loaded? Is there a magazine inserted? Because you have to have that gun right now. The perpetrator or an intruder or a criminal is not going to stand over there and say, oops, knock, knock, we're going to come in there and rob you. You want to see if your guns are loaded? It's not going to happen like that.
That you can be sure of.
They're going to break the window or break the door or whatever else and get in all of a sudden. And you, for whatever kind of defensive gun you have, you got to be able to get it quickly and put it into action quickly.
Right. Yes, I don't have to worry about whether the safety's on, and I don't have to, like you were mentioning, whether the magazine's in or out or locked, and whether the chamber's charged. One thing I need to remember about the revolver is to pull the trigger. That's the only way I can make it shoot.
Well, another thing too, this is a Model 64, I think you said.
Right.
Some of the folks out there would think that without adjustable sights, without a complex sighting mechanism, a gun is inferior. That's just not the case, because even if you drop, this gun has fixed sights. Even if you drop this Model 64, nothing's going to happen to the sight. There's nothing there that...
And if it did have adjustable sights and I were to drop it, it'd probably hit right on the rear adjustable sight.
It
and
might
then
bend
I'm out of it. It would bend it, yes.
So this is, in fact, one of the very best personal defense handguns. The 38 Special also has caught a lot of criticism over the years, but I think we can delegate that to bullet type with the best ammunition available, such as our fantastic Corbon 38 Special, which 38 Special becomes a very serious candidate for any defensive situation.
That is a fact. Yes, Corbon will do it every time.
Now, speaking of shooting, Jim, of course, we had you and Harold Terry both on the program a while back.
Right.
And I noticed that you were showing us your gun, and it is currently unloaded. It's normally loaded when you're walking around here.
That's right.
But for new shooters, and you know, friends, we have to do this periodically on the program because we have new people tuning in each week. For new shooters, you have someone come in and say, well, Mr. Coleman, what do you recommend, and what technique do you recommend for just to start out with?
Well, Johnny, of course, we have regularly scheduled training sessions here at Shooters USA. And as far as what you're asking about shooting, I think the most important thing that comes to mind immediately, and let me just double check and make sure we're unloaded here, and we are, is to always use two hands when you're shooting a revolver. You'll see a lot of people sticking their finger out like, or their hand out like this, or standing like this. You see a lot of this kind of thing. And what I'm going to highly recommend to my students first off is that they always use two hands. You know, one hand is good, two is better. So, Johnny, what I want to do is I want to bring that gun out, join it with my other hand, arm, and I want to aim this gun by pushing out with my strong hand and pulling back with my weak hand and locking that gun into position. This is something I cannot do if I simply use one hand.
Now, friends, of course, this is our very good friend Harold Terry, who you've seen on the program. And he came by, in fact, today we're over here at Jim's range, and of course, Harold has trained a tremendous number of people, not only in this area, but in other states as well as Louisiana. And we were just talking about what would happen if you found an intruder in your home at night, and maybe the power is off, or maybe you didn't want to turn the lights on.
Sure.
How would you handle that, Harold?
Well, we have a program over here in conjunction with Jim teaching handgun shooting. We teach a course called Tactics, and we're talking about that now. Everyone says that I'd like to have a shotgun, and that they're a home defense gun, but try to hold your shotgun in one hand and your flashlight in the other and see how far along you get with it. All right, Johnny, I have Jim's revolver here, and it's unloaded, and I'd like to show you, because this is a simple way to handle a handgun and a flashlight, if you will, and I'd like to point it so that they can see it. The cylinder's open for the safety factor of it. It's holding the thumbs together and pointing both at the same time, looking right over the top of your sights, and as you fire, as you turn the light on, and you can see out of either the direct beam or the outer beam of the flashlight, you can see your target. Now, you want to have the flashlight somewhat in the area of the front of the muzzle and away from it far enough. We have a Weaver stance, and we also teach the back of the hands to the back of the hands, which is of the Weaver style. When you bring the gun up, you hold it and you turn the light on with the strongest finger, and after you fire a couple of shots, you move, of course, because where the light comes on and where the flash of the gun is fired, you have to move out of that area. I laugh at the old training that the FBI, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, would hold the flashlight out in this fashion and turn the light on and then shoot. Well, that's all right if you're outside, but what if you get into a narrow hallway? The first thing you know, you're down here. So you want to have the gun and the flashlight together, fire one or two shots rapidly, and move from one position to the other. Johnny, we appreciate you coming by and visiting with us, and we'd like to leave you with this one thought, that safety through education, training is what people need to understand the revolver, the shotgun, or the handgun, or semi-automatic. Safety through education. Training is the utmost.
Training is what we offer here at Shooters USA. Thank you, Johnny. I appreciate you coming by and seeing us.
You know, Carrie, I think it's as important for you ladies to know how to use these firearms as it is for us men. But you know, there's something else. We can have firearms for defense of our homes and certainly for sport, but we also need information.
Yes, I agree. I think the New American Magazine is the best source of information available in this country.
Well, I would certainly agree. The New American Magazine is the truth and nothing but the truth. And friends, if you would like to know what is really going on in this country and around the world, if you want, in fact, the truth, well, you need to get the New American Magazine. So here's how to do it. You can get the New American by calling 1-800-727-TRUE, TRUE. And those numbers, of course, are 1-800-727-8783. The New American, $22 for a 6-month subscription. It comes twice a month. Now, friends, with your new Shootin' Show subscription, they will also send you a free copy of what the United Nations is bringing to all of us. So this is very important. Subscribe today. You know, friends, in times like these, which indeed are strange times, we certainly need our firearms, but we also need the information about what's really going on. Order today. Well, friends, we hope you're enjoying our program. A lot of you will recognize this young lady sitting on my right here. This is Donna Mitchell, and Donna, in the past, has done a number of things on our program. She's done commercials for us and has certainly been a good friend and a great feature on our show. However, Donna does other things. She has a family, and she works very hard at a job that she has, and we hadn't really, we've sort of been out of contact for about a year now. Hadn't
It's
really
good to
seen
be
you.
back, though. It feels
Well,
good.
Well, I appreciate that. And a lot of, you know, we got mail over the past, certainly over the past year. I know you had a pretty little following out there. We had mail saying, "Where's Donna?" Well, Donna was off working. She was doing things certainly with her family. But a few days ago, I ran into Donna down at one of the local stores, and certainly nice to see you. But Donna, just sort of recap when you and I met. And we hadn't seen each other in about a year.
It's been about a year. Well, when I seen Johnny, I couldn't believe my eyes. I really couldn't. I was just shocked. I had to do a double take. The weight was the first thing I noticed. And I commented on that, and as we started speaking, I noticed a glow about his face.
I'm not paying her to say
no, he's
she's
not
saying
paying
this.
me to. This is
On her own.
coming from me, and his face was just lit up. I noticed the lines were lighter than they were before on the face, around the eyes, and I don't want to embarrass you, but
No.
I'm going to tell you what I said to him. I said, "Have you had a facelift?" And he laughed, and he said, "No, it's not a facelift. It's this new health club plan that I've been involved in." And immediately I said, "Tell me more about it. I'm interested."
Well, this is really true, Donna. I do appreciate the compliment, certainly. Friends, as you've heard me say on a number of occasions, this has been one of the great discoveries of my life. None of us ever thought anything like this was possible, to take something that would actually take you back in time, and that's certainly what it's done for me. You feel so much better. Those of us, we naturally age. Things happen as we age. I'm 46 years old, and you do age. It's okay, but what about going back in time and knowing what you know now, but maybe looking like you did a few years ago, and feeling so much better, having this energy and vitality? It is absolutely wonderful. And someone like Donna, who certainly has a very youthful appearance anyway, well, we were talking and said, she could essentially look the same for many, many years. She could retain that youthful quality that she has. Now, Donna works for a psychiatrist. And Donna, tell me something. A lot of people that come into your office, I know, are troubled. A lot of them have weight problems, don't they?
That's true, and the weight problems affect your self-esteem. They affect the way you feel about yourself and the way you feel about others. Depression accompanies
Well, that's
overweight
really a
people.
problem, isn't it?
It is a
Depression.
problem. It is.
And
And you have to feel good about yourself to be able to feel good inside. And
to feel good about other people, you first have to feel good about
that's
yourself,
right.
don't you?
Exactly.
Well, now, friends, what is so important about this, we have a new weight management program. And I think, and of course, it uses the vitamins, it uses the products that we make available through our health club. But the weight management program, here's what's so important. One, you don't have to go to any meetings. You don't have to go over here and sit down and talk with a group of people. You can read the book. You can start on the products. You can lose the weight in your own home. Nobody even has to know about it. Now, some people are very sensitive about that. Heck, I'm tickled to death to tell people I lost weight.
No, I don't blame
But
you.
this is something you can do at home, and it's relatively, compared to some other weight loss programs, I think it is very reasonable in cost. But the great news is, once someone gets the weight off, you can keep it off. This is a problem with so many diets. Someone can actually lose weight, and they're so proud of themselves, and they get off the diet plan, and they want to eat real food again, and they gain all the weight back.
And the crash diets don't
The
work.
crash
We know
diets don't
that.
work.
We've all tried it. It doesn't work.
That's really true. And really, don't you find that some of these folks that lose a lot of this weight and then gain it back are actually in worse psychological shape than they were when they
Sure they
started?
are. Sure they are.
Because they feel like they failed again. And I think a lot of people feel like being overweight is some sort of failure with themselves, failure over self-control. It's really a personal failure, and I think that's one of the things that makes it so depressing. Well, friends, we can come to the rescue. This is no joke. Give us a call on our 1-800 line, 1-800-895-7916. Leave your name and address and phone number, and one of our people will get back to you. And yes, we are extremely busy, but they're getting to folks. The lag time is not too terribly long. They'll get to you as soon as they can. And this is something that, of course, this helps our program. Of course, it helps keep our shooting program on the air. But more than that, it's going to help you. It's going to make those of you who try this and are successful with it, it's going to make you a more viable physically person. And you know what? When you have more vitality physically, you have more mentally and emotionally. It makes life better. So friends, don't put it off. Call today. 1-800-895-7916. You can ask for the health program, or even you might mention the weight management program, because it is such a terrific thing.
For health club information, give us a call, 1-800-895-7916. Leave your name, address, and phone number. Someone will get back to you as soon as possible. Friends, this is such a wonderful thing. Do it for yourselves today.
The Shootin' Show will be right back after this break for your local cable company or TV station. You know, friends, all of us as shooting enthusiasts should be subscribing to Shotgun News, the trading post for anything that shoots. 3 big issues monthly with literally thousands and thousands of firearms bargains. Give them a call, 1-800-345-6923, a very inexpensive subscription price. Again, 1-800-345-6923. Subscribe today.
Get your hands off that gun, bow, or fishing rod. Holding onto your equipment while you're going through the woods or climbing a hill is fatiguing and possibly dangerous. The versatile Tri-Tote all-season carrier is easy to use. You never have to drill a hole in your fine gun stock. And the Tri-Tote can be set up for your specific needs in a jiffy. Just follow the illustrated instructions and free demo video enclosed. There you are, hands-free, yet ready to shoot in an instant. Hunting and fishing have never been more enjoyable. With Tri-Tote, your equipment is secure and your hands are free to support yourself or carry other gear. How did you ever get along without Tri-Tote? Make this year's hunting and fishing the best ever. To order your Tri-Tote at this special TV price, call toll-free 1-800-231-1443. That's 1-800-231-1443.
Well, friends, we hope you're enjoying our program this evening. My esteemed colleague, I tell you what, we just about got all the dust off of him from tramping around up in the mountains of Idaho there. Sir, how you feel?
Well, I haven't felt too darn hot ever since I got back from Idaho. It was a long trip and it was tiring. I did something up there. I started shoveling something and hurt my back. And so I had to give up my trip to the Tulsa Gun Show, which is one of the biggest gun shows in the country.
How many tables did you say were at the Tulsa Gun Show?
3,300.
Isn't that a lot?
You better believe it is. It is a whole lot. Shreveport Gun Show's got about 400.
And that's a pretty big show here, but
That's a fairly decent sized show. The Dallas show is huge, and it has about roughly 1,000 tables.
Well, I tell you what, speaking of gun shows, President Clinton and President Clinton, Bill Clinton, in fact, wants to send 20,000 American boys to Bosnia. Can I get your opinion on that, sir?
I'm absolutely opposed to this business of sending American troops to try to handle the world's affairs. I think we've got enough to do to handle our own. We're turning into a police action for the entire world, and I'm opposed to that.
Well, we're not an arm of the United Nations. I mean, this country was never designed to be an arm of any organization. And Clinton's complaining about NATO. Well, wait a minute. How long has trouble been going on in the Balkans? Did this start last week, last year, the last 5 years? How long has trouble been going on there?
Well, my son-in-law put it that they started one world war this century, and we sure don't want them to start another one.
Well, it's absolutely outrageous, I think. Of course, Newt Gingrich, I heard today, they passed a resolution that Clinton can only send troops with approval of the Congress. Is that correct?
I've heard something about that, Johnny. I'm not sure how binding that is, but Congress can manage it because they can cut off funds.
Mhm.
The main thing I want to talk about tonight is about elections. Now, we don't have elections nationwide until next year, just about a year from now. But we have elections in Louisiana this year. And I made a remark on a couple of shows ago that I wanted to vote absentee because I might die between now and the time the election's held, and I wanted my vote to count. I actually ended up pretty good, Johnny. My candidate for governor came in first.
That's true.
Uh,
Hey, in fact, let's give Mike Foster a plug here. One of the things that our new candidate for governor, he is the number one in the runoff so far. He's the leading candidate so far. One of the things that he built his platform to run on was private ownership of firearms. He said, and I heard him say this on numerous occasions, the Second Amendment is safe in the state of Louisiana if he's elected governor.
well, the Second Amendment's not safe nationwide,
No, it's not.
but I read something about one of the from one of the newspaper editorialists or columnists, and I don't know what sets him up as being so all-wise and so forth. They referred to Mike Foster as being on the far right, which is exactly wrong. He is not on the far right. They did refer to Cleo Fields, which is
His opponent.
his opponent, and he's a liberal congressman, and he is on the far left. I've got a little pamphlet called "The Myth of the Right and the Left." There's no real difference in the right and the left. What the difference is that some people are in favor of government intervention and government management of everything, and other people are in favor of government keeping the cotton-picking hands off our lives. Those are the two big philosophies. Louisiana has about 35% registered African American voters, and about most of the rest, with a few exceptions, most of the rest are Caucasians. Cleo Fields is an African American, and he carried the African American precincts by margins of several hundred, 4 or 5, 600 to 2 or 3 or 4. You talk about a block vote. That's where a block vote is. I resent the newspaper editorialists calling Mike Foster far right simply because the Christian Coalition voted for him. Nothing the matter with Christianity. There's nothing the matter with the Christians banding together to want good government.
Well, yeah, what's wrong with that?
Not a thing as far as I can see.
Nothing's wrong with that.
If you're in favor of the Second Amendment, you're on the far right. Now, that's a bunch of baloney.
Absolutely. One of the greatest safeguards in our entire way of life, way of government, and yet these people want to turn upside down all meanings of words. They want to make politically correct in their mind the way we look at things.
Well, the thing is, I'm a firm believer in the Second Amendment. I'm a firm believer in the right to keep and bear arms. That doesn't mean that I carry a gun all the time, which I don't. I'm a firm believer in the right against self-incrimination, Amendment 5, which the ACLU is completely in favor of. And that doesn't make me far left either. It just makes me a constitutionalist. I believe in the provisions of the Bill of Rights. The newspaper reporters are all in favor of freedom of the press.
That's right.
But they aren't all that hot about other freedoms that are guaranteed for the government to keep their hands off of. No, we don't get these rights from government. We get these rights from God. We get them from tradition. We get them from history.
And a right is not the same thing as a privilege.
No, but the legal distinction between the two is fine enough where I don't want to get into that on this program.
But what we're saying, we had these rights before the Constitution, before any of this.
That's correct.
The right of self-protection.
That is correct. And the amendment says that Congress shall make no law abridging freedom of press, freedom of speech, freedom of religion. It doesn't say anything about restricting religious rights. It doesn't say anything about abridging or restricting speaking rights, publishing rights. Remembering that freedom of the press means freedom for the publisher. It doesn't mean freedom for some reporter who's just a hired hand. The voting record of the two candidates for governor, Cleo Fields on the one hand, is 100% ACLU, 0% American Conservative Union. I have had some conversations with Mr. Fields, Representative Fields, and I am not impressed with his acumen, his intelligence, his ability to reason. Mike Foster is a state senator. I have had some conversations with him, and while I don't agree with him on everything, he is far more preferable than his opponent. Now, this is a plea to our viewers in Louisiana. Get yourself out to vote. Don't think that just because a minority candidate is there that he doesn't have any chance, because he's going to get his people out to vote. They are going to be there to vote.
And there are some Caucasian liberals who will go with him. There are some that who are absolutely, there is a percentage of people here, not a whole heck of a lot, but a percentage of people here, regardless of race, that just does not have a clue, friends.
I don't think that they know enough about what he has done and what he stands for. On the one hand, he argues that his congressional district that was gerrymandered for the particular purpose of having a minority majority in that district. And there's been a lawsuit that has been tried and won saying that it was a racially districted district, but it was kicked out by the Supreme Court because the people that brought the suit were not voters in that district. They were voters in his original district. Legislature reapportioned it, did it again, and the Supreme Court threw it out and sent it back, and now some plaintiffs have joined who are registered voters in that district. And now he's saying absolutely essential to have a black majority in that district because otherwise a black couldn't be elected. But he's running for governor saying a black can be elected. Now,
typical liberal.
Tell me where the consistency is there. I don't know where the consistency is.
Well, what I say will meet my purpose at the time I say it. Just don't, instead of telling the truth, what I say will meet my purpose or my need at the time.
Well, again, this is a plea to people who observe the right to keep and bear arms, who observe the other provisions in the Constitution, to get out and vote. I want to make sure they do vote. Mr. Fields, Representative Fields, supported some legislation that I was vehemently opposed to, and I wrote him a letter about it, and I got back a very intelligently worded letter that I'm sure he didn't have a thing to do with writing. And I answered him and became quite erudite on the whole thing, and I never got a reply to that. He ignored me.
Well, this is, again, something that we have to think of and work at constantly, who we are going to put in office. A politician is a lot like putting stuff in a freezer. I had a teacher back in high school that was telling the students one day, he said, you don't get anything better out of a freezer than you put in it. Well, that's kind of true about a politician. Now, you can cook it. Now, if you get something bad, if you get spoiled meat in the freezer, you can cook it, you can pepper it, you can put garlic sauce on it, you can pour all the wine and vinegar you want, but it's still spoiled meat. It's still not good to eat. And a politician, many times, is the very same way. A lot of times, you'll have a politician who's not a good man who won't listen to anybody else but his initial supporters. If he's a bad man, he's still a bad man.
Don't go away. The Shootin' Show will be right back after these very important messages.
The Shootin' Show will be right back after this break for your local cable company or TV station.
If you are a boater or a birder, if you ever carry a camera, Bi-Tote is for you. It is the most comfortable binocular and camera carrier on the market today. And its all-elastic quick change feature makes it possible to switch from one piece of equipment to another without missing a beat. If you think that carrying binoculars or cameras is a pain in the neck, try Bi-Tote. For the first time, your equipment will feel almost weightless, and you'll be free of that annoying swinging and bouncing which is hard on your body as well as the equipment, especially when you're negotiating rough terrain or on a pitching boat. One hand for you, one hand for the boat, and Bi-Tote for your binoculars or camera. They'll be ready for you instantly, held firmly in position. They're always there, not buried in a locker or other out-of-the-way place. And the Bi-Tote is totally adjustable for a custom fit. All necessary adapters and complete instructions are included with your Bi-Tote. How did you ever get along without it?
Incidentally, in the Senate seat that I ran for 4 years ago, and a liberal Democrat won it, that liberal Democrat has lost in the primary. He came in third. Another liberal Democrat is in the race, and a conservative Republican, and that's a Republican district really, is now leading that race. That's Mike Malone.
Great.
I encourage everybody that's voting in that district. I don't know, we have very many viewers in that district, but if you do, go out and vote for Mike Malone. He's a good
Absolutely.
man.
Well, you know, Judge, speaking of honesty and integrity, I heard something today on one of the radio talk shows about information that was falsified or believed falsified by the FBI regarding Vincent Foster's death. And, you know, I don't know what it's going to take, but the FBI has got quite an image problem right now because they seem to be getting caught at every turn by falsifying information. The FBI is not there. It's not the False Information Bureau, you know, agency. It's supposed to be a truthful agency, yet time after time in these subcommittee hearings and the oversight hearings that are showing up, these people are telling more lies and trying to cover up for themselves, just like people out in mid-America and other places.
Well, of course, ATF has had the same problem.
Absolutely.
And
terrible image.
Senator Specter, one of the Republican candidates for president, has called for the abolishment of the agency and the distribution of its functions to the FBI. I don't know that that's much improvement. Gets it under a different branch of government, a different cabinet department. But I'm disturbed when I see news reports of FBI agents in black uniforms.
Yes.
And they've got FBI written across their backs, but nothing across their fronts.
That's right.
And they've got helmets on, ninja helmets, and
The black mask.
It's not the American way.
Stormtrooper time, friends. That's stormtrooper stuff. This is not the way they were set up to operate. And I'm like you. I think a lot of these agencies should be disarmed except for their own personal protection, possibly, and let the locals handle it. Friends, something has got to be done. This cannot go on.
We don't need SWAT teams in the federal law enforcement agencies or the federal investigative agencies. SWAT teams are wrong. Sure, local police officials sometimes have to have SWAT teams, but they should be used very carefully and used only where local people have the right to vote those people out of office. You can't vote the FBI out of office. You can't vote ATF out of office.
That's right.
You can't vote the U.S. Marshal Service out of office. And I am opposed to their SWAT teams and their, what do they call them, hostage rescue teams?
Well, you know, I quote a good friend of mine who's no longer with us. He said, the hostage rescue team had killed more people than they had ever rescued. Something has got to give. And I'll tell you what, there are enough people angry about it that some of these candidates starting to talk about it. And this is something, friends, that we cannot let die. We cannot, you know, remember the old cry, remember the Alamo, that was so famous in Texas history. Well, I think we need to remember Waco, whether we agreed with the Branch Davidians or not. We need to remember Vicki Weaver. Absolutely remember Vicki Weaver and her son.
Well, remember Waco and remember Ruby Ridge.
That's right.
They are, who was it that said, some famous English prime minister or English politician said, I disagree with what you say, but I'll defend to the death your right to say it. The Branch Davidians have a right to live the way they wanted to. They have a right to be left alone as long as they leave other people alone. The same thing about the Weavers
Well, you know, good point. Every time Randy Weaver is referred to in print or on television, it's white separatist Randy Weaver. Well, I don't believe every time Louis Farrakhan is referred to as black separatist Louis Farrakhan. I don't believe that happens. Do you?
No, I know it doesn't. He's not referred to as black nationalist Farrakhan, but Weaver invariably is referred to as white separatist Randy Weaver, as if his initials were WSRW.
Yeah, you're right. And friends, you folks that know from watching this program all these years, you know that there's nothing about the shooting show, there's nothing about this shooting program, anything we've done that we have ever represented to be racist in any way, shape, or form. But there comes a time when you have to call and say, wait a minute, this is unfair treatment. I don't care what your color is. You have to say, this is unfair treatment by the news media. And the worst thing, they're trying to use anything, the liberal news media, the establishment is using anything at all. What do you call those trigger words? Words that cause an emotional reaction in people, whether it's real or not.
These are inflammatory words. They're words that create an emotional atmosphere for whoever you're talking about. And I think that white separatist Randy Weaver is an inflammatory word that tends to create an attitude even before the name comes out. These descriptions are wrong. They're not even correct, but they're wrong even if they were correct.
Well, I think what they want to associate that with is white supremacist rather than separatist. Now, that's a whole other word. Supremacist is another whole deal. And I think that is what they want to associate. And it's just a campaign, an underlying campaign like has been going on for these many years of the left trying to sway public opinion, yellow journalism, essentially, slanting things their way. So I am very hopeful that something can be done to defang ATF and the FBI among these power grabbers, among these people that want to rule every part of our lives, friends. Something has got to be done.
That's it. That's certainly true, Johnny. There's no question about it. I don't think that we have any choice. We either have to bridle some of this and get a sense of fair play in it. A newspaper has a right to whatever opinion it wants, whatever its publisher wants, but it ought to be expressed on the editorial pages. It should not be expressed in the news articles. That's one reason why talk radio has become so popular, because it's the only way the other side gets an opportunity to be heard. And talk television is the same way, and this is just about where we are right now in this section of our program, is talk television.
That's true. And now, friends, we're very pleased to present Art Alpin of the great A Square Company. For those of you who don't know, Art is a former instructor at West Point, and he has some of these wonderful things to say, some of the most interesting things that I've ever seen on firearms. And so let's see what he has to tell us today.
When a cartridge weapon is discharged, a number of forces are generated and a great deal of energy is released. The idea of using these forces or the energy in order to cycle the weapon surfaced in the 1880s. Though many people worked on putting this idea to use, such as McLean, Lewis, and Hotchkiss, I would like to concentrate on two major contributors whose designs made a mark on the course of warfare. These are Hiram Maxim and John Browning. Maxim harnessed the recoil forces generated upon discharge in order to cycle the weapon. By the 1880s, he had some practical designs. Though they worked reasonably well, his automatic weapons became what we understand to be a machine gun only after the introduction of smokeless powder and jacketed bullets. You have seen these developments in a previous tape. By 1893, Maxim was selling perfectly functional machine guns. Among their first recorded uses was action in the Matabele War of that same year. The painting Brave Men depicts the death of Alan Wilson's Shangani Patrol. The patrol was an advance element of Forbes's mobile column. After the Nabili had annihilated Wilson, their 7,000-man army advanced on Forbes, who credited his salvation to the Maxim machine gun. Maxim worked at refining his designs, and by 1908, the Maxim machine gun had been adopted by Germany and was made under license there. The same weapon was adopted and manufactured in England, where it was known as the Vickers. John Moses Browning had been working on another method of cycling an automatic weapon using the very same gases which propelled the projectile. His first workable designs were made by Colt Marlin and used in the Spanish-American War. When the bullet passed a hole or gas port located underneath the barrel, gas escaped and pressed on a lever. The lever rode all the way back and then was pushed forward by a spring, thereby completely cycling the weapon. For obvious reasons, this gun was nicknamed the Potato Digger. As war clouds loomed, Browning quickly branched aside and designed a machine gun using Maxim's short recoil idea, since short recoil was a good...
Friends, due to time limitations this week, we'll come back to art on the next program.